Second. Okay, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. As you are entering the room, please make sure that you are muted and that you have your name listed on your Zoom. For today's webinar, we will be utilizing the Q&A function. So if you do have any questions or comments, please use the Q&A function and not the chat feature. And we will begin shortly. Okay. Today's webinar is recorded. You will get a link to the full YouTube presentation as well as the supporting slides for today's webinar. If you are not following us on social media, please make sure that you do so. We are at FSBDC at FIU on all of our social media platforms. If you would like to see previous webinars and other types of content, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Florida SBDC at FIU. Again, this is being recorded and you will be able to access it after the presentation is completed. It'll be sent to the email that you used to register for today's event. If you would like to come to any other webinars or in-person workshops for the SBDC, you can see a full list of those workshops at go.fiu /SBDC/webinars. So I will put all of the links for all of the different supporting resources that we have in the chat for you. And without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Emily Diarmas, who is going to be your presenter for today.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Let me know. Can you all see that? We're good. Okay, great. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go into full screen. Can you still see it? Yes. Great. Okay, wonderful. Good. Okay, so today we're going to talk about 5 tips to make your restaurant's social media more appetizing. But first, we will talk a little bit about the Florida SBDC at FIU. So the SBDC is a U.S. Small Business Administration resource, and we provide one-on-one business consulting, training, and information to small businesses in Miami-Dade and Monroe counties. And since the center started in 2014 through the end of 2024, we've done quite a lot. So over 137,000 hours of consulting. We've helped almost 9,000 entrepreneurs. We've helped to launch almost 600 businesses. And then we've also helped to raise capital and provide access to capital for many businesses. So it's a wonderful resource because there are quite a lot of consultants. In 2023, we were the development center of the year. There are many development centers like ours across the country, but we were #1 in 2023. And some of the things that you can access as a business are the one-on-one business consulting. So that's startup assistance, if you need help with access to capital and financial management, aka QuickBooks. I know everybody struggles with that. If you would like information about international trade and development, marketing, of course, and growth strategies, government contracting, there are consultants that specialize in all these areas that can help you. We can also help to provide information and data and market research and the trainings and workshops which you're participating in right now. So, as I mentioned, there are a lot of different consultants that each have their own specialization and can help you with the different aspects of your business. For today's presentation, we are going to talk specifically about making your social media appetizing as a restaurant. And why social media is really important for a restaurant is because 90% of guests will research a restaurant before they choose to go out and actually dine there. And social media influences a lot of our dining choices, especially now with food influencers, with just the amount of food content that's out there. And being active on social media, it helps you to create a brand versus just posting food photography. So if you are a restaurant or you um, sell an actual food product, you want to make sure that you are ultimately creating a business that is successful versus if you are a blogger or you're an influencer and you're just kind of posting pictures, right? There's a different approach that you're going to want to take, which is what we're going to talk about today by discussing the tips that will help you to not only boost your social media presence, but to attract the customers and then to increase your reservations or your orders. The first tip, of course, is to make your content mouthwatering because we are visual people. We eat with our eyes first. So, the most important thing and the most important takeaway really from this presentation is to make sure that whatever it is that you are posting, whether that's photos or videos, that they are high quality. And high quality doesn't mean that you have to invest in a bunch of camera equipment or tools. There are ways to do it just with your smartphone, and we'll talk about that. But you want to make sure that you are showcasing your food in the best light possible because you've put a lot of time and work into it, and you want to make sure that that's translating across the screen and that people are finding it appetizing. The best thing for that is to lean into natural lighting. So it doesn't matter how delicious your food is, if it's not lit well, it's not going to look good. So the sun is really your best source of light. Indirect natural light is better than something that is a direct overhead light, definitely better than artificial light. So you want to try to capture as much as you can, either early morning or late afternoon. And if you're shooting inside and you don't really have a lot of sunlight, you can get by just with a phone. So you would need two phones for this, but you need the phone where you're actually capturing the content. But if somebody else in your restaurant has a phone, you can put the flashlight on and you can use a white paper napkin to kind of help diffuse the light. It gives the illusion of sunlight. So that's what I mean by you don't need anything really fancy. You can make do with what you already have and actually create some really nice food images. There are a lot of editing apps out there now that will help you as well. There's Snapseed, Lightroom. You can also edit photography and video on Canva. And what you're looking to do with this is just, again, to make the food look as good as you possibly can. So you're looking to color correct it, to increase the vibrancy so that the colors are popping. Lightroom actually has a preset that is called food that will help you. That way you don't have to think about it. You don't have to figure out other elements of photography like the contrast or the exposure. You can just choose the food preset and it'll do the work for you. Another hot tip is that anytime that you're capturing food content, it's really nice to use the structure feature. So when you're editing photography, there's a tool called Structure. You can even find it directly on Instagram as well. But that really creates more texture and dimension for your photos. You can also use Canva to add text or to resize the content for the different social media platforms. So Canva is a good one-stop shop for kind of all of these things as well. When you are thinking about capturing your content, you want to think about the angles. And I'm going to show you some examples soon, but you have an overhead option. So let's say you want to show a table filled with different dishes. That would be kind of your best bet so that you're showing all the different things that you offer. You can use napkins, water glasses, people's hands. That creates a very organic and like a feeling that they're actually there. You can work with a 45-degree angle. I would say that's the default. That's where you're going to capture the image of the food up close and then something that's in the background that's a little bit more blurry. So you can use portrait mode on your phone to accomplish that. If you have something that's really tall, maybe you have a tall lasagna or a tall cake or something like that that's got a lot of layers that you want to show, you can do eye level, you can do side view. And then you also want to think in terms of the experience. Because ideally, the photography should be making me hungry. And so you want to think about action shots, right? Cheese melting, right? We've all kind of seen when somebody bites into a pizza and then the cheese kind of strings out. pouring a sauce over something, making a drink, right? It makes people feel like they're in the restaurant or they're experiencing the act of actually eating the food, which makes them want to eat the food. This does not make me want to eat it, right? Like this does not look appetizing in the least. It might taste good, but it just doesn't look good. And so if I came across something like this on social media, I can't say that I would really necessarily feel like, oh yeah, it's definitely where I want to go eat. However, these images are a lot more appetizing. You can see on the photo on the left-hand side, this is what I'm talking about with a 45-degree angle, where the food is up close and then there's something in the background. In this case, it's the actual kitchen, which is cool. You can get really artistic even just in a kitchen with the heat lamps and with the lighting that you have going on in a kitchen. In the middle photo, you're seeing somebody squeeze that lemon and you're seeing the juice come out. That's something that, one of your guests might do. They actually might squeeze lemon onto their food. And then on the right is an example of that flat lay or the overhead shot where we're looking at a bunch of different food options and we're seeing some plates, some cutlery, the glass. That also gives that feeling of being at the actual table. And of course, in these images, the lighting is good, the colors are good, it's drawing me in as opposed to this, right? So you want to kind of think about making sure that you're giving people variety. So when people are looking up a restaurant on social media, they want to see the images. It's one thing when you get a menu and you can see, okay, I see what the menu options are, but what does that look like? What does that dish really entail? So you want to actually go through your menu and make sure that you have images, posts, videos for all of the different items that you might offer. Right? You're giving people an idea of what it's like to actually eat what it is that you're making. That also means not only the food, but the environment that they're eating it in, the ambiance. So, what kind of restaurant are you? Or what kind of food brand are you? What's that story that you're telling? Are you fast casual? Are you fine dining? Are you maybe somewhere in between? Is it kind of a family restaurant vibe? Is it the kind of place that people go to for a special occasion? If you are making a food product that you're selling, is this something that somebody's going to use every single day on their toast in the morning? Or is this something that they're going to pull out for a special occasion? They're going to take to a dinner party? Think about how your food makes people feel. Because the word brand can kind of seem ambiguous. We don't really know what it means, but really it's about what is it that people feel when they eat in your restaurant, when they're interacting with the food. And it's not just about the food, it's about the space itself, the way it makes them feel, who they might be eating it with. You want to try to present all of that on social media because that's going to help you attract the right customers. Here are just some examples of different styles of the food photography. On the left, this is an example of how you can play with the text on an image. You could easily do that with something like Canva as a tool. Like I can tell from just this one little snapshot that this restaurant has a more casual vibe, maybe a slightly casual elevated vibe, because I can see that they're serving the food on paper, right? Yes, I have plates, but it's a shared kind of a concept. It's somewhere that I might go with friends or family. Maybe it's good for groups. There's paper on the table, so without seeing the rest of it, I'm not going to know necessarily if it's a fancier establishment or not. But I'm getting a sense for what this restaurant is about just with this one little snapshot as opposed to the one on the right, where I can tell, okay, this is definitely more of an elevated experience, right? It's not to say one is better or worse than the other, they're just different. So I can see because I have the candles, this crazy flower arrangement. I can tell that there are white cloths on the tables, just the overall decor of it, the lighting. It's giving a different feeling. And that's very obvious from the photography. I can already tell what kind of a restaurant I might go to on a Tuesday night or even a weekend night versus something that might be more of a special occasion, something a little more elevated. Here again, kind of a similar feeling. We're looking at two flat lays, if you will, or kind of overhead shots. We're looking at a table with a bunch of food options on it. One is definitely more casual than the other, right? One is definitely it's just a different experience. And that's something that you want to think about when you are portraying your food and you're showcasing the food, right? I already can tell from this image that in the restaurant on the right, I would imagine I'm going to be in and out a lot faster. Right, the image on the left, I'm going to probably want to linger. This is going to be a longer kind of a dining experience. The one on the right is, I can tell like I'm going to have good food, but I'm not going to be sitting here forever. And I know I'm trying to remember what restaurants I pulled for this. I'm pretty sure the photo on the right is Enriqueta's, which I might be biased because that is one of my favorite establishments. And then you want to think too about your feed, right? So I know in this day and age, most people are not going to necessarily go directly to your feed, except I would say in the case of restaurants, that's actually more likely than maybe if you were a different type of business. Why? Because again, I'm basically getting a visual menu when I visit your page specifically on a platform like Instagram. Same thing if I look you up on Yelp, right? I want to see what is this place about and what is it that they're offering. So think about what that feed is looking like. And the one on the left here is a little more minimalist. The one on the right, it just has a different visual language. So you want to think about what it is that you are expressing with the way that you are presenting all of the content. And that's why it's helpful if you can have somebody dedicated to doing this. I know that's not always possible, but in an ideal world, you want to be intentional about what it is that you are showing people. To give you an example of like the power of visuals, Crumble cookies, they hit 1 billion in revenue in 2022. They expanded to over 700 locations across the US. I think they're now up to 1,000. They have a loyalty program. They have done brand partnerships with very established brands like Kellogg's. They have a very open kind of floor plan for their stores, so you can actually see the process of the cookies being made. And their branding is very eye-catching. It's recognizable. Why? Because of the background. It's pink, but then also the way that the cookies are kind of all uniform in their shape. Yes, they might be different flavors, but there's something about it that's a little bit pop art. It's a little bit graphic, right? It stands out and it's recognizable. And that's really important to think about. You don't have to have this level of branding in a restaurant, but you want to think about how you have some kind of signature that you can incorporate. Um, Maybe it's just that in your actual space you have a cool, wall with some art on it, right? That might be an element of it. Or maybe there's specific plates that you use that are pretty, or glasses or something like that. All of these things are going to create something recognizable that helps cut through the noise on social media. Something else to think about is video. I know it's a lot easier to do photos, but videos are so important these days. You have a bunch of different options when it comes to how you want to do video. And luckily, we have tools to help us. So, one thing that would be important to think about is what kind of food do you want to showcase in terms of a video? Do you want to do a time lapse? So maybe you have a dish that takes a while to prepare. You can do a time lapse video of it. I talk to small businesses that focus on food, and sometimes that's one of the things that they struggle with is because they're doing so many things inside of the business. They don't have time to be making the food and worrying about all the other aspects of running a restaurant, and then also on top of that, doing social media. Well, if you do a time lapse, that helps you a little bit, right? Any little clips that you can gather will help you. If it's maybe showing the process of a dish, of putting it together, how it goes from the kitchen to the table. You can show it being plated. You can do slow motion shots of, adding finishing touches, the garnishes, the sauce, the salt. You can do kind of more action shots of the food actually getting cut, eaten, right? Stirring something. All of those things are going to make people curious about the process. And when it comes to video, you really want to keep it short. You don't have to create something really long. You want a lot of movement right from the beginning. You don't want to hold the shot for a second and then get into the action. People are going to scroll away. You want to really show me something immediately that's in motion so that I get a sense of getting sucked into it and I want to watch it. And there are templates that you can lean into where you could take a bunch of clips and then something like CapCut, for example, or InShot, or even Canva will handle any transitions or any editing so that you don't have to feel like that's something you have to also learn. You can lean into the templates that are available. That'll really help you to accomplish what you want without having to spend a ton of time on it. The second tip is to make sure that you are posting consistently. The reason is that these social platforms are an algorithm, and the algorithm needs you to feed it. And it needs to be able to understand what it is that your account is all about. So, in order for it to do that, it has to be able to collect enough data, which means you have to be feeding it, which means you need to be consistent. So I would say as a minimum for a platform like Instagram or TikTok to post at least 3 or 5 times per week on the actual feed and to use the stories daily if possible to help you drive engagement, right? If I'm searching for a place to eat and I go to the Instagram page and they haven't posted anything in 5 months, I might question if that place is still open or not. So you want to make sure that you are updating that as often as possible. What to post. You have a lot of options. You can do behind the scenes kitchen moments. You can do a video of the actual ambiance to capture the space. You can promote new menu items. You can do little detail shots. Maybe it's a close up of the plates or the menu or the napkins or even the food itself. You can use social media to promote specials and seasonal dishes. We're going to get into that a little bit later. Customer reviews. Maybe you have best-selling items and you want to promote those as well. And then as far as scheduling, you can use tools like Later or Hootsuite or Meta Business Suite. These are all things that will help you to stay consistent so that you don't have to worry about trying to do it in the middle of dinner service. So, which platforms are recommended for food? I would say Instagram is the main one. Instagram started out as a visual platform, and while they have definitely focused on video over the past few years, it's still, I would say, a go-to for any kind of new restaurant. TikTok as well, especially because you're seeing a lot of reviewers on TikTok. It's a more trendy kind of a platform. So if you have a twist on something, if you do a kind of food or you offer something that's a twist on a classic, that might be a good place to go as well. If you want to focus on thought leadership, meaning if you want, let's say you have a big name chef or you want the emphasis to be on your knowledge, you might want to do YouTube. Let's say you have a pizza making class. That might be something that you want to put on YouTube. Google My Business is another one. It's not a social media platform, but that's important for local SEO. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. And in terms of how many platforms, I would say ideally you want to be on multiple, but you can just start with one, get the hang of it, and then start to add more. You don't want to burn out and then not be consistent. So if you staying consistent means you do just one platform at a time and you kind of get the hang of it and you add something else, then by all means, that is the most important thing. The third tip is to engage like you are a host. Think about social media as digital hospitality. You want to remind people that there's actually a human behind the account. Eating is something that we all do, and well, a lot of us, right? Not everybody is a foodie, but people enjoy that sensation of eating a good meal, of feeling satisfied, of feeling like they ate something delicious and something that was really might have been the best part of their day, honestly. Maybe they're celebrating something. Maybe they're just, looking forward to eating something delicious and then carrying on with work. But eating is something that we do. We also do it normally in community. Sometimes we eat by ourselves, but no matter what, you are in an act of connecting with other people. Somebody prepared that food for you. And even though AI is a big thing right now, and you can definitely use AI to help you create content and things like that, AI is not eating your food. People are. So people enjoy that feeling of connecting with real people and also supporting small businesses. We've all had that experience where we had a really amazing local restaurant and it went out of business. And we're sad because we can no longer eat our favorite dish anymore, right? We can't get that thing that we love. So you want to make sure that you are treating social media as an extension of that hosting aspect of food and of making food for other people. So what that means is that you are answering questions. If somebody is sending you a direct message, you want to make sure you're answering it, or somebody on your team is answering it. You want to respond to comments people leave. You want to create conversation as well. You can use the features on Instagram, for example. You could use a poll. Let's say you're coming out with a new flavor of something. You could ask people what they prefer. You can ask questions in the captions. You could start a debate, like a New York style pizza versus the Chicago style pizza. How do you eat your um, yeah, how do you eat your croqueta? Do you eat it with crackers or do you not? How do you take your coffee? Like these are conversation starters that you can get people really debating because people get very passionate about food. Um, Instagram Stories definitely has a lot of features to play around with when it comes to creating conversation. Not only the polls, but you could have a countdown clock if you had a new menu item. You could ask people questions. You could let people ask you questions as well. So there's a way to create dialogue. And you want to make sure that you are encouraging people to tag you, to post you. So if somebody tags your restaurant, make sure that you're sharing that. You can use a hashtag specifically for your restaurant as well, and encourage people to use it in their posts. That way, it's not just your content that pops up, but other people's as well. And then I did mention SEO before. People need to ultimately be able to find you. So, whenever somebody Googles something, 46% of those Google searches are for local businesses. And people will usually Google something like best pizza near me, best breakfast spot near me, best sushi near me, right? They're looking for something close to them. Usually, when we're Googling for a restaurant, we're either Googling because we're going to make reservations, so we're planning ahead, or we're out and about and we're hungry and we need to figure out what are we going to eat right now? Like, what are we going to do? What's around me? So, you want to make sure that you're helping people to find you. One of the ways you can do that actually using social media is to make sure that you're geotagging the post. So you want to make sure you're including the location of your place when you post on social media. You can also use local hashtags to help people find you. Things like Miami food, Miami eats, Miami foodie, Miami restaurant, right? Miami ice cream, Miami food scene, like fill in the blank. But you want to kind of leverage this because that will help you pop up in searches. On Instagram, when you set up your profile, you can include a call to action. So if you are trying to promote, let's say, orders, you could say DM to order or reserve your table now. You want to make sure that you're telling people what to do, right? Let's say you are a pop-up, right? You can talk about that. Like, oh, we are only open Friday through Sunday. We have a few openings available. You want to use that space as kind of like a billboard, if you will, to tell people what it is that you need them to know. And then Google My Business is a very important tool that's going to help people to discover you. That's also where people are going to leave reviews and images of the food that they eat. So you want to make sure that you are keeping that updated, that you're encouraging reviews, that you are providing a menu, you're answering all the questions somebody might have before they actually show up, right? So you want to make sure that you're leveraging something like a Google My Business. Same thing with Yelp, right? The reason we go to Yelp is because we want to investigate. We're trying to figure out, do I want to eat here or not, right? And so you want to try to give as much information so people can make that choice. So this would be an example, of a Google My Business page. This is Azúcar in Little Havana. Somebody comes across your business profile. You can see there are a bunch of images, and then the call to actions. So they could order pickup, order delivery, website, the directions, and then you can click in and you can read the reviews. 97% of consumers are going to search online for a local business before they make a decision. And actually, 88% of all searches from their cell phones are going to result in either a call or a visit within 24 hours, specifically for food, right? So, again, when they're on the go, what are we going to eat for lunch? They put it in the phone. They start finding a spot. That's something that you want to think about. How can you present your restaurant in the best light so that you are showing up in these searches? Another way to kind of create more reach for yourself is to borrow somebody else's audience. You can do that by collaborating with food influencers and bloggers. This can really drive foot traffic for you. You want to make sure that you are creating that credibility and that trust because those people have, for the most part, some kind of level of trust with their own audiences, and then by going to your restaurant, giving a review of the food, discussing what they tried, that's going to inspire other people to also show up. And when you partner with an influencer, a lot of times they will allow you to use the content that they captured, right? They could, right now on Instagram, for example, there's a feature where you can kind of co-post. That would be an option. But you can also negotiate that as well and say, hey, can I, make sure that I can use this content for myself as well. How you work with them, I would say unless you're very established, I would say to target the micro influencers. They're going to be the ones that are most willing to work with you. That would be somebody who has between 2,000 and 15,000 followers. You can search them, Google Miami food influencers. People will put together lists. But I would say to start with something called Hungry Post because Hungry Post does a lot of reviews of Miami restaurants. And as a just regular person, if you're interested in food, you can apply to be a contributor of Hungry Post. So a lot of the people who are contributors are interested in food. When you're trying to work with an influencer, you want to check their engagement, not just the follower count. Are people actually commenting? Are people sharing? Are people liking? Are people interacting with that post? That is way more valuable than how many followers they have, because people can buy followers, but the engagement part won't lie. So you want to just make sure that they're actually getting active engagement. And usually the way it worked with a restaurant is you're offering free food in exchange for that review or that part. Or you can extend that into a more paid partnership if the budget allows, but that's usually the expectation. The last tip is how to turn your followers into customers. At the beginning, I talked a little bit about how your approach as a restaurant or food brand is going to be different than if you're just an influencer or a blogger, right? At the end of the day, followers are great, but a paying customer is better. You want to focus on driving revenue. And engagement on social media is great. People might say, like, wow, that looks amazing. That's so wonderful. I worked with a woman who made custom cakes, and she got a lot of positive feedback for the photos of the cakes that she posted, but she wasn't getting anybody ordering the cakes. So you want to make sure that you're thinking about that. We take for granted something very simple, which is that we need to tell people what to do. So just because you're a business, don't assume, and even something as obvious as a restaurant, obviously you want people to come eat there. You have to tell them that. That might sound overly simplistic, and you might feel like that's kind of weird. But no, book a reservation today. Show up for, dinner this Thursday, right? You can do things to entice them in, and that's how you're going to work on getting them to the restaurant. So, for example, you could offer a social media only offer. So, like a free drink or a free dessert if you show that you saw this post, and we'll give you that when you come in. You could do a limited time menu drop that you announce on stories. That creates a sense of FOMO, a fear of missing out. If you have a seasonal menu or a limited run, you want that. You want people to feel like, oh no, I missed out. Um, there's a local cafe in Moncayo Ocho. It's called White Rose Cafe, and they will do these special flavors for the coffee. And when they're gone, they're gone. And I'm still annoyed that I tried the black sesame in my coffee and it was a cold foam. It was delicious. And then they were like, nope, that's it. It was seasonal. It's gone. And every few weeks they change out. It really does make you want to go back and want to experience that. So you want to think about creative ways that you could do that specifically and apply it to your business. How can you do something that is time sensitive that will help get people through the door? You also want to make it really easy for them to book a reservation. So you want to make sure that whatever reservation platform you're using is easy to use. The link is very clear because people are lazy and they will not search for things, right? You want to make sure that it's not going to stop somebody because they can't find the link or, I mean, people will still call to make a reservation, but you want to make things as smooth as possible. You can also run giveaways in exchange for promotion. I don't recommend you do this that often, but you could if you wanted to. If you repost this post, you could, win a special dinner for two, or we will, deliver food to your house, or you'll get an extra something on us. You can run that kind of a promotion also through social media, and that makes it so that people in the know will know that because they're following you, and if they're not, they're going to miss out on that. Something else you can do is use automations. So if people are DMing you for a reservation or they're asking a common question about hours, allergies, gluten-free options, catering, whatever, you can kind of set that up so that it auto replies. You can set this up inside of the Meta Business Suite for Instagram and for Facebook. There are also chatbot tools that you can use. There's ManyChat, ChatFuel, Mobile Monkey, that will help you manage some of these if you don't have somebody to be responding actively. So to recap, the 5 tips are to make your content mouthwatering, to post consistently, to engage like a host, use local SEO to attract diners, and to turn your followers into customers. And one thing I do want to leave you with before we dive into the questions, before you really start creating content, you want to think about what your brand is. Right. So you're going to get access to this presentation, but I would think through this, and take your time to answer these questions. What is your brand? How do you want people to feel when they eat your food? Research other restaurants that are in a similar category and draw inspiration. Maybe there's something they're doing really well on social media, and you say, okay, I want to create posts like this. I want to do this style of video. Do that research of collecting the things that are appealing to you that you feel like you would also want to do for yourself. For content creation, to stay consistent, it is best if you capture as much content as possible. You bank it, quote unquote, you save it so that you can post it later. If you have the ability to hire somebody to help you, I would highly recommend that. Maybe you can get somebody on your staff to do it, or you can also leverage a social media resource. People who might come into your restaurant, your cafe, whatever, for one day a week or a few days a week, just to have all the content, and then they'll handle the posting, so you don't have to worry about it. You want to make sure that you're posting consistently because over time you'll be able to see what works and what doesn't. So you might think, oh, yeah, this is a great post, but then actually nobody really cared, right? And that's normal. It happens all the time, right? Something will flop. That's good. That's information. And you want that because you want to see, okay, what is it that people are interested in? Um, and then you can also follow trends like, oh, you know what? We posted a picture of this sandwich. We never really promote it. All of a sudden, people are ordering it. That tells us that they probably saw it on social media. You can also lean into partnerships. That doesn't have to be other restaurants, it could be, but it could also be adjacent businesses or even local publications. So, an example of this would be the ice cream place Salt and Straw. They typically, no matter where they pop up in the United States, and they have many locations, they work with local businesses. So, they have a coffee flavored ice cream and they work with Panther Coffee to do that, right? So, that's kind of the idea. Is there somebody who makes honey? Can you partner with them? And maybe you're using a special kind of honey in one of your dishes or one of your products that just helps to create a bigger audience because then not only will you promote it, but they would also. And there are local food publications I mentioned, Hungry Post, but there are other ones as well. Miami New Times does quite a lot around restaurants. So if you can get local coverage, that's something else that's great. So these are just thoughts to take you kind of into the future. I'm going to go back to our recap here, and then I'll stop sharing and we can do questions. Okay, let's see. I see some comments here. Okay. Question here. How can a restaurant measure the results of these marketing efforts? Okay, great question. Yeah. So, an easy way to do that would be if you have some kind of a special promotion, like free drink or free whatever. If you see this, that would be one way because that will give you a direct correlation. You know how many people booked because of that. If you collect numbers now before you start, that would be helpful. So if you know kind of baseline, okay, this is how many tables we do in a night, this is our most busy night, this is kind of what your stats are right now. Once you start doing social media, you can see if that increases at all. Um, like in the example I just mentioned, maybe there's a menu item that you want to sell more, but it's not selling. Promote it more on social media and then give it a little bit of time and see, okay, have we moved more of this sandwich? Like, are people buying this more because they're seeing it on social media? That's one way to kind of connect it. Um, Another way is to really try to see, like I know Yelp, for example, I know it's not a social media platform, but you can kind of see the foot traffic coming in, especially if you play around with the ads on Yelp. But just noting what your foot traffic is and noting if you see any spikes when you're posting. Okay, we posted about this and then all of a sudden everybody's asking for this, right? Or we're selling out of this, or kind of tracking that. That's a way to do it, but you need baseline metrics first, meaning you need to kind of know where you're at right now, and then you can make that determination.
Yeah, I'm gonna add on to what Emily said. In terms of if you need help finding your baseline metrics, if you have Meta and specifically Instagram, and you have a business profile for your restaurant or food business, once you hit, I believe it's 250 followers, it will start generating insights for you. So if you're promoting certain things specifically on your social media, it will tell you the frequency of engagement on that post, how many people your post is reaching, if they're clicking on a link in your bio, if it's in your Instagram story and you have it linked there, if they're clicking on the link, how many times the information is being shared. So it really does capture quite a bit for you to start benchmarking if you haven't already. It's also just a good litmus to understand what kind of content your audience gravitates to more. So Emily gave amazing examples of the power of photo and the importance of video. If you're finding that your audience and your customer base is driven more towards the video versus the photo, then you can also pivot your marketing strategies to be inclusive of that as well. But a lot of that information you can get if you are utilizing your Instagram or your Meta Suite for for content for the business.
All right, let's see. I don't see, okay. I don't see any other questions. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A. Happy to answer those before we wrap up. No. Okay, here's another. Could you share a success case where the number of customers or their repeat visits increased? Well, I would say Crumble Cookie is a great example of that, and kind of how they leveraged the buzz around their product to not only open storefronts, but then create a loyalty program. That's something that you could look into, is doing a loyalty program to see what that correlation is, people actually showing up and being repeat business for you. I think you kind of have to give them a reason for a repeat business. So whether that's the quality of the food, the quality of the service, um, what are those things that you notice that people are kind of coming back for? And then start promoting it on social. Maybe you create some kind of like supper club for the month. That's one way to do it. Um, but I'm not sure if you're asking for like an actual case study or just sort of examples of how you would go about that. But you want to make sure that in line with some of the information that Alexis just mentioned, kind of what are those best sellers and what is it that you want to focus on? Is it just repeat business or do you want like a certain dish or a certain time slot to do really well. Like kind of what is it that your goals are, and then working backwards from that to create the social media content to support that. And then if you have a baseline and you know, okay, this is what I'm doing right now, once you start doing the social media, then you'll be able to see if that bumps up. Okay. And Ivan, I'm happy to meet with you as well, one on one. We can kind of dive into your specific restaurant and anything that you might need or your food business. All right. I don't see any new questions on my end, so I think if not, then we can go ahead and wrap. I believe the link to sign up is in the chat if you want to grab that. So you can go ahead and make sure that you're signed up for consulting.
And Ivan, I can send you the link directly to in the chat if that helps. And thank you so much, Emily, for the great presentation. Again, if you are interested in meeting with Emily, just in general about for consulting, she's great with all things marketing, branding. So please feel free to use that consulting link to connect with her. It is in the chat and it'll also be provided to you via email. Additionally, we do have a cohort coming up for restaurants specifically. Today is the last day to apply for the Santander Cultivate Small Business cohort. This is a curriculum session that is taught by current Babson College professors, which has an amazing hospitality program. There's networking opportunities available, and all participants who successfully complete the program will receive a $2,500 grant with exemplary graduates eligible for upwards of $20,000. Again, that is grant funding, so you do not have to pay it back. It is for any business that is considered food service, food and beverage. You can apply. Today is the deadline to apply. I will put the link in the chat here for you all as well. And I will send that via email to you all as well. So please get that application in as soon as you can. And it looks like we do have one more question here from Stravos.
Mm-hmm. Should mean an online presence is a full-time job. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely can be. That's why I think it's best if you can hire somebody to do it for you. So if you can, there are many people that specialize in social media just for food. So, that person would kind of come in on a rotating basis, capture content for you and run it. You can see if you can maybe hire somebody within your staff to do it part-time for you. But yeah, it's definitely, it can be a full-time job. If you have the ability to do that, I would recommend it. If not, I think there are other ways that you can still be consistent with it. You just have to be a little bit more intentional with how you're going about it. But that's also something we can chat about one-on-one as well.
Okay, if there are no more questions, oh, we do have one more. Okay. If there are no more questions, I would like to ask that you all just take a minute before we dismiss to do a quick survey. We always look forward to your feedback after these kind of webinars and workshops and let us know what we're doing well, what we could do differently. We want to make sure that you're getting the most out of everything that we're doing for you all as business owners. So give me a minute here and I will. I'll put the link for the survey in the chat. So as you all are exiting today, please make sure that you take a moment to fill that out. It is really important that we get that information from you so we can continue to provide resources like this and any other topics that you would potentially be interested in. And I will drop that in the chat here. Okay, thank you so much, Emily. Thank you all so much for participating today. Again, you will receive all of the presentation as well as the YouTube in the coming days. I will send the Santander link out today because today is the last day to register if you're interested in that opportunity to be a part of that cohort and to receive the $2,500 grant at the completion of the cohort. So thank you all so much. Have an amazing afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Mm.